Hello guys, welcome to my channel with GR of Talents. And in today's video, we are gonna look at the chapter The Fundamental Unit of Life. It's a chapter 5 of NCERT and it's of class 9. So what is the fundamental unit of life? Yeah, it's the cell. So we are gonna look at the summary of the chapter in this video. So yeah, this is CBSE Class 9 Science Notes, Chapter 5, the Fundamental Unit of Life. And first, we'll start with the facts that matter. Let's start reading it. And I'll also give the link of this document in the description below. You can read it whenever you want, and it will be quite helpful for you. And you can read it before the exam to remember the main points. So let's start with it. The smallest functional unit of life is a cell. This is the basic thing which we know from the chapter, and the chapter name is only the fundamental unit of life, which is nothing but the cell. And was discovered by Robert Hooke in 1665. So this is very important. Robert Hooke was the scientist who discovered the cell in the year 1665, and he observed the dead cells in a cork. A cell can independently perform all necessary activities to sustain life. Hence, cell is the basic unit of life. It is the smallest living thing to be found till now, so it is known as the cell. There are two types of cells, that is plant cell and animal cell. The different cell organelles and their function are as follows. So the below we'll be seeing each of the cell membrane, each of the organelles of the cells. And the first one here we see is the plasma or cell membrane. This is the outermost covering of the cell that operates the contents of the cell from its external environment. So it plays a crucial role in the cell as it acts like the border guard of the cell and makes sure that no foreign item comes into the cell. The plasma membrane allows or permits the entry and exit of some materials in and out of the cell. So the cell membrane is also called a selectively permeable membrane. So the cell membrane is known as selectively permeable membrane, as we have read in the chapter also, because it allows only some type of substances for moving in and out of the cell, such as the cell requires oxygen, so it allows oxygen into the cell, and it's required for the cell to release carbon dioxide outside. So carbon dioxide is let outside. So if viruses are present in the environment, it makes sure that they won't enter the cell so that they won't damage the cell. Some substances like CO2 or O2 gases can move across the cell membrane by a process called diffusion. The movement of water molecules or liquid through such a selectively membrane is called osmosis. So osmosis can be known as a special type of diffusion which is permissible to only liquids. So any substance, if it moves in and out of the cell membrane, it is known as diffusion. So if we look at liquids particularly, then it is known as osmosis. Osmosis is the passage of water from a region of higher concentration through a semi-permeable membrane to a region of lower water concentration. So diffusion and osmosis only takes place when the region of higher concentration to a region of low water concentration. So if the medium surrounding the cell has a higher water concentration than the cell will gain water by osmosis. Such a solution is known as hypertonic solution. In osmosis, there are different types of solutions, or types we can call them. So we'll be reading now. First one is the hypotonic solution that we are seeing right now. And there is an other type which is known as isotonic solution. And there is an one more type, third type, which is known as hypertonic solution. So both hypotonic solution and hypertonic solution are represented by Hs. So let's get into detail of each of them. If the medium has exactly the same water concentration as the cell, there will be no net movement of water across the cell membrane. Such a solution is known as isotonic solution. And if the medium has a low water concentration, then the cell will lose water by osmosis. Such a solution is known as a hypertonic solution. So this is a hypertonic solution. So then if you look at this picture, this is a hypertonic solution. And in a hypertonic solution, the concentration of the liquid, as you can see here, is high. So the water will move inside the cell. The water gains the and the cell gains the water present in its surrounding and gets swelled. So if you look at this isotonic solution, in isotonic solution, the concentration of the cell and the water or the liquid present outside it are same. So the movement of water molecules in and outside the cell are equal. So the cell doesn't swells, or else it won't even commence. So if you look at this last solution, this is hypertonic solution. In a hypertonic solution, the concentration of water is low. So the cell loses water by osmosis. If you want to know better about the different types of solutions through osmosis, the better way to understand is it through activity. Take a few raisins in a cup, then pour normal water and keep it for 1 day and observe it. And then put salt into the water, a high amount of salt, not little bit, and then again leave it for 1 day, then observe it again. So tell me what happens in the comment section below. So if we move forward and we look, the plasma membrane is flexible and is made up of organic molecules called lipids and proteins. So this point is very important. The plasma membrane. So if you imagine this is a cell and this is the plasma membrane and we'll represent it by PM. It is mostly made up of lipids and proteins. It's very important. So plasma membrane is made up of lipids. This might be very frequently asked in exams. And proteins. This point should be remembered carefully. So then the flexibility of cell membrane also enables the cell to engulf food and other materials from its external environment. So if we take the example of amoeba, amoeba takes food through the process known as endocytosis, and it moves through the process of pseudopodia as we know earlier. It contains pseudopodia for movement. So if it has to catch its food, if there is a food for it, then it does this process by process called endocytosis, as you can see here. It captures or engulfs the food. Such process is known as endocytosis and it is observed in amoeba. So this was easy. Then let's come to the second organelle. It is the cell wall or protective wall. It is like the Great Wall of China present between India and China. So it's very difficult for others to come from China to India, or else India to China. It protects as a barrier. So in a cell also, cell wall or the protective wall protects the internal parts of the cell from the external parts of the cell, such as harsh weather conditions and etc. The cell wall also helps during the process of osmosis. When the cell is placed in a hypertonic solution, it gets swelled up. We have read it right before. So when the cell gets swelled up, the pressure is exerted on the walls of the cell and many cells may burst. So the cell wall gives equal pressure to the inner parts of the cell so that it won't burst. Pressure gets cancelled and there are less chances to burst. Plant cells, in addition to the plasma membrane, have another rigid outer covering called cell wall. Another important point is that the cell wall is present only in plant cell and not in animal cell. This is one of the, we can write it as an important difference between animal cell and plant cell also. The cell wall lies outside the plasma membrane. The plant cell wall is mainly composed of cellulose. It is a complex substance and provides structural strength to plant cells. When a living plant loses water through osmosis, there is shrinkage or contraction of contents of the cell away from the cell wall. This phenomena is known as plasmolysis. And then before we talked about the hypertonic solution, but if we take the hypertonic solution now, when the cell wall shrinks and it becomes small, the contents of the cell move away. So if we imagine that this is the cell wall and these are all the contents, they move away from the cell wall. This process is known as plasmolysis. So then, actually, if this is the cell and this is the plasma membrane, the cell wall is present outside the plasma membrane and it also protects the plasma membrane. And remember, it's only present in plant cell. So, let's look at the other organelles in the next video. Stay tuned. So, if you have any doubts, don't at all get worried. Comment me below and I will let you the answer as soon as possible. Like, share and subscribe my channel. And if you want to get the next part, just click on the bell button. My channel with GR of Talents. Thank you.